Welcome back. And we're going to go for about 8 minutes, and then we'll do a brief commercial, and then I'm going to be back with Adrienne Pettiford, and I'm very excited to be speaking with her. And to set the stage for that, I want to talk about another talent analyst, and her name is Rebecca Jones. And she's been in the press lately, and it's been well-deserved. And I'm really, really happy that she has taken the stance that she's done and had the courage to put herself out there, make herself vulnerable, and share her story. And I want us as a community to talk about her. Because if you have not heard the story, and I'll just be very brief in sharing it, she was pressured to change the data around COVID-19 in the state of Florida. And I have been similarly pressured. And many of those who have held positions, if you don't know, held a people analytics leader role in the early 2000s. And I founded a company, and there was many instances, not so much as when I was in a role, but when I was consulting and advising companies, where I saw people pressured to suppress insight that did not reflect well on leadership or the organization for which they were responsible. And it was a very tough situation to be in, where you have this insight that you believe is going to benefit the organization or the people within it, yet for reasons of politicalization, maybe ego, the insight was suppressed. Now, in the case of COVID-19, it puts people's lives at risk. So that's a scary thing, obviously. And thus it has to be addressed with similar seriousness. Now, if you're talking about recruiting diverse candidates, and if you're talking about lack of promotions and all that, there's a similar level of seriousness. But where do you go? If you're a people analytics leader, and do you just do what Rebecca did and just go off and create your own dashboard? You can't do that. So how do you mitigate the risk of this happening in organizations? And this is what I want to put forth. I mentioned, and it's going to be something that I emphasize continuously. And when I do, I have the echo of John Wooden in my head. And if you don't know John Wooden, he was an extremely successful basketball coach here in the United States at the collegiate level. And he had one of many great quotes was, "It's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize." And so one of the things I constantly emphasize is this notion of governance. Like, who is your internal customer? And what are they doing with the insight that you're generating? The more you can get that to be not only well understood, but get that group owning what you're doing, then the risk of insight being suppressed is going to be less. And let me explain this in real terms. Many people analytics leaders over the history of the past 20 years, let's say, have been reporting up into the CHRO almost exclusively. And sometimes it's been 2 or 3 levels removed. So what happens if you're producing something for the board or executive leadership team, it goes through this chain. And it's like playing telephone in 4th grade. You tell somebody one thing, you tell somebody another thing, then it goes up. And even if it's a deck that's well supported by data, it gets diluted as it goes up, and the end story might be very different than the one that you wanted, and it comes down and no change happens, or something that is actually contradicts the insight happens. So if that is your reality, again, how do you change it? So what I would put forth is find not only a governance body or steering committee, but a group of individuals who understands the value of people-related insight and really understand their needs, the timing of those needs, and how they're going to collaborate and help set what I call your research agenda or your project agenda. So that project agenda is not set by the people analytics leader in his or her room or cubicle or wherever you are. It's not done alone. You go back to that governance committee and say, hey, these are what I'm hearing needs to be done. These are the resources I have to do this work. people, process, technology, and so forth. I am limited here by capacity or the capability of my team or the tool sets. Therefore, if you want this ongoing, this is the investment that you're going to have to make. If you don't make that investment, then it's not going to happen. Because what many people analytics professionals have done over their careers is, stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. trying to crank out an analysis and in turn a deck. And in so doing, thinking that they're doing the right thing, what they're doing is creating artificial capacity or the illusion of capacity. Because what happens, let's say you do a great job in that scenario. What do leaders want? This is great. Give me more, cut it this way. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and do that work. So it's something that I really encourage. And again, there's a host of tools and approaches to get that, but it does take some fortitude to assert yourself with the CHRO, HR leadership team, or beyond to say, hey, if you want this people related insight, this is the investments that need to be made, because an individual can't just make magic. The idea of doing skunkworks projects around people analytics, while it is good in some cases, in other cases it's almost impossible because we're all stretched with our priorities, and it's just the work is now more involved. It requires more often than not something beyond Excel. When I started doing this work in the 90s, it's Excel centric. Then BI tools emerged, and obviously we're in this state where there's some great tools out there. So making intelligent decisions on those tools is key, but you're not going to write the check yourself. You need to get, leaders on board, to identify the budget and so forth. So more to share on that. Hope you found it helpful. I celebrate what Rebecca Jones has done in creating her own dashboard and sharing those insights and ideas because she is creating this guiding coalition. And I think I'm going to look for her journey over time, and I'm sure there'll be more to share, and hopefully we'll get her on the show before too long. So with that, we'll go to one more commercial, then we'll come back with Adrienne Pettiford.